Hello everyone, I'm Sharon O'Boyle and I'm working as a software test engineer in IBM Security Division in Galway in the west of Ireland. And I'm delighted to be given the opportunity to speak here in Petflix today. I became a software tester 7 years ago when I returned to work after a career break. Before that I had been a hardware tester, and I thought to share my experience today by giving a short overview of what hardware testing is and how it compares to software testing. What is hardware testing then? So hardware testing is testing the physical and electromechanical parts of the device or system, and also the controlling software called firmware that may be embedded in the system. As a hardware tester, you could be testing anything from individual chips to circuit boards and computer systems, IoT sensors, medical devices, parts of a car, parts of a plane. So all of these different types of hardware need to be tested differently. There are three main areas of hardware testing. First is product validation, second is manufacturing testing, and the third is field testing. So a hardware test engineer would typically be located in the manufacturing testing part of the process. But just to give some context, it's good to explain what happens in product validation and testing in the field. So product validation, here the main goal is to make sure the design of the product meets the specification and requirements. This is early stage before production, where you apply different electromechanical and environmental stimulus to prototypes. For example, you could be varying input voltages and loads, varying the temperature, humidity, vibration, to make sure that the design works once it's out in the world. It's a cyclical process, and prototypes are often tested to the point of failure to find the performance characteristics and operating limits of the product. In manufacturing test, the testing is automated using specialized test equipment or software downloaded onto the system under test. The main goal here is to verify that the product passes a subset of key specifications before it leaves the factory and goes to a customer. As I said, this is where a tester with the title hardware test engineer would probably more than likely be working. Then in testing, for testing in the field, you usually have specialized field test engineers. And this testing is done in a customer site after repairs have been made to the product or replacement of parts or during annual maintenance checks. So what is a day in the life of a hardware tester like? So this could be very different depending on your role and the type of product you're specializing in. So I worked in a manufacturing systems test engineer role, testing services and enterprise data storage systems. Systems were assembled by technicians who also did the initial testing using specialized testing equipment. As a test engineer, my role was to support the technicians, helping them to debug the more complex system failures. Once the failing part was identified and replaced, it was my job to follow up on the root cause of the problem, working with other specialized engineers, such as component or board or power engineers, and the product designers. When I started as a software tester, it was interesting to find that many of the skills needed for hardware testing also applied to software testing. As a hardware tester, you need to be able to understand and communicate complex technical details. You need to be able to troubleshoot issues, and in a manufacturing setting, you need to be able to debug issues quickly to minimize production delays. These are also useful skills in agile software development. The main difference between hardware and software testing is that by the time the product is being manufactured, the hardware design is pretty stable. Most of the test design is already done up front during the product validation phase, along with the creation of specialized test equipment and infrastructure to support the testing process in production. So changes to hardware designs are very expensive to make, as the new designs have to go through a product validation stage again, and the test equipment may need to be updated as well. So there is a cost in terms of time and money. So in contrast, in software development, as we know, the software is changing all the time as new features are added to the product. Design changes can be made very quickly and with less resources, so it's a lot less expensive. This also means, of course, that new risks are added, and as a software tester, you need to explore the changes and design new tests each sprint to uncover the new risks created by those changes. And this is what makes software testing a more interesting role for me. Well, that's my bird's eye view of hardware and software testing. Thank you for listening to my talk, and I hope you enjoy the rest of TestFlix.